All right, I'm going to get into a potentially sensitive topic today, and hopefully we leave this, by the end of the video, you don't hate me or anything, but if you do, I guess that's okay too. But we're going to talk about some pretty sensitive stuff that's going on right now in indie comics. First, I got to get this promo out to you. This is Thrilling Comics. I'm really honored to be on part of the creative team here. I wrote a 24-page story for Silver Streak. We've also got Chuck Dixon and David Furr on this project. And let me show you the second cover. This was painted by Preston Acevedo. Both covers look fantastic, and I can tell you I've read all three scripts. This is something to be excited about. So this is going to be launching very, very soon. I don't exactly have a date yet, but I can tell you I think it's supposed to be within the week. If you really want to jump into this, especially as soon as it's launched, the best thing you could do is join my mailing list. It is in the description below. All right, so if you hadn't noticed yet, the past, I don't know, week, 2 weeks have been a little crazy for indie comics. And a lot of the things that we're seeing are friction between creators. It almost seems like a division or a fracturing that's going on. I've seen this happen time and time again, and if you've been around following ComicsGate, you've probably seen it time and time again. Just, it's a little different every time, I suppose. My goal here in this video is to maybe give you one more perspective on it. I know there are a lot of people that are very concerned about it, and I want to get into some of those concerns, but I want to show you this. This is just a little clip from the history of Image Comics, and I want you to see if this perhaps gives you a little bit of insight and perspective.
It became apparent very quickly that the founders were in over their heads on the business side. Missed deadlines started piling up, causing costly delays.
But now you got to do a lot more than draw. And right now you've got to know about marketing and distribution, and you got to get money to start the company. Was that hard or was that fun?
Oh yeah, I mean we didn't know we were getting into it all. I was like, I don't understand any of this.
What we did when we first started was we skinned our knees severely at times, trying to understand what business meant in terms of printing, shipping, distribution, accounting, logistics, and then just at its core for the fans, just having books come out on time. Just the simple rhythm of having the books come out on time.
Todd McFarlane is explaining that there very nicely. So you'll notice that there are some similarities, and there are also some very big differences between Image Comics and the current indie comic scene that's going on right now. You've got a bunch of creative type of people who are very competitive, and perhaps there's a lot of ego going around. And I'm not excluding myself, though. I'm not a big guy. I've still got my own ego. Suddenly, these creators are realizing they're thrown into the deep end of creating a business on such a large scale that it's creating high tensions. I'm not saying that this is the cause of everything. I am saying that there are a lot of similarities here and something to be learned from the past. So we'll play a little bit more here.
We've all mentioned that Image Comics was sort of like if you had brothers, this is what it's like. I never had a brother before, so I feel bad for all the people that actually do have brothers having had this experience.
Dude, it was always competitive. I mean, it was always. One of my other partners, I will not say who, I love them dearly, said, this is my favorite meeting. Well, when we get to Image, this whole pecking order is going to change. Marvel just like you three guys, now you know who it isn't. Marvel just like you three guys the most, which is why you sell as well as you do. But once we're all on our own, and then Todd leaned over to me as the guy left, and he goes, he's wrong. He's going to find out the hard way. And that competitiveness, I'm just speaking of that to the competitiveness of it. We were ruthlessly competitive. And honestly, fandom benefited from it.
Whatever happened at Image, the best things that happened out of Image, in my mind, came about because of the rivalry between the partners.
So a little bit about the rivalry and the conflict. I don't play any more of this video, but if you know much about Image Comics history, you'll also know that the founders of Image really had a serious falling out. There was some bad blood that went around, and people split up and went their separate ways. And you know what? To this day, at least according to this documentary, they're all on good terms. Actually, they've gotten over whatever it was, all of the bad blood that happened, and seems like it's just comic history. So there's two kinds of conflict here that they're mentioning. First First kind of conflict is they talked about the competitive nature, and a lot of this has to do with ego, and it has to do with, I guess, ensuring your own future, perhaps. I can assure you that this is absolutely going on right now in indie comics. There is competition. This is a great thing, especially if you consider yourself a fan of comic books, especially indie comics, and you're interested in a lot of the creators right now that are out and hot and selling books, and everything that's going on with Indiegogo. This directly benefits you. The second kind of conflict that we're talking about is interpersonal conflict, personalities that clash, perhaps business dealings that went a little sour behind the scenes. It's hard to know for sure because back when Image Comics was in its founding years, none of this was quite so public as things are now. YouTube is a massive part of what is driving the indie comics scene. Social media is a massive part of what is bringing people into the comic scene. And so while that is nice and it's a way to get people interested and into things, it can also be a detriment because dirty laundry is abound. You can see the conflict in full display, and you're also probably not getting the full story. Now, if this concerns you, if you're worried about it, and I've seen a lot of people saying that it worries them. They feel like it's mommy and daddy fighting. Creators that they love are at each other's throats, perhaps, or at least not in great moods, with each other. The way I look at this is there's a couple different routes you could go. One, you could feel pressure to pick a side or to disavow somebody or shun somebody or praise somebody or whatever. You could feel that kind of pressure, and maybe you want to. And maybe you want to take your money and spend it on some creators and not others. I'm not going to even try to tell you what to do because I know, like I see the analytics on this channel. Most people in indie comics are adults and they will absolutely make their own decisions. If you're like me, though, I am seeing this as though there's competition that's going on, which is good for me because I'm interested in purchasing the results of that, the good comics. And I'm actually quite okay with the fact that comic creators that I like and respect don't like and respect each other. Now that the founding and the breakup of Image founders has happened so many years ago, do I feel pressured that I need to pick a side now retroactively? No, of course not. That's ridiculous. Will in a few years from now or 10 years from now, all of this just be comics history, just like it is for Image Comics? Will all of this be water under the bridge and people will feel happy and great about each other? I don't know. That's kind of what I suspect would happen. In any case, I can't really control any of it. So I'm not going to try. And I hope that nobody is going to ask me to try or disavow or pick a side or any of that. I'm going to continue on like I've been doing. And I have the feeling that there are many people out there that feel the same way I do. And you're happy to just continue enjoying comics just as you always have. Now I want to show you one more thing. So this is, it has been about a year ago that I started making comics, I started making videos about comics. It was actually a little over a year ago that I started this YouTube channel, and I initially started by making videos on politics and pop culture, and it's so funny, like 48 views, 25 views, 17 views. That was a terrible video, but I remember posting this video here about Alex Jones, and I got like 50 views on it within 24 hours. And at that time I thought, man, I've got this. Now, I don't know. It's insane how much happens over a year. And so you can see once I learned about ComicsGate, I started making videos about it. Here's my first one, The Salty Tears of Mark Waid, 185 views. And that was in October that I published this. Now, I'm not sure which video it was, but pretty early on, once I made that video, I started posting every single day, just about. Sometimes I missed a day here or there. Almost a year of a video every single day, and they've all been related to comics to some degree or another. Now, I made one video that got some bit of attention. At the time, I didn't really have a lot to lose. I didn't know about all the inner workings. I didn't know about any of the fallouts that had happened in the month or two just prior to me getting into all of this. I didn't know all the personalities. I didn't know the conflicts. I didn't know any of it. But what I did know is that from my fresh perspective, I saw ComicsGate as a political, social, cultural movement. Whenever I see a movement like that, I always see them peter out and eventually go away. And so I made a video saying that eventually ComicsGate is going to go away. A lot of people hated that, and a lot of you might even be upset that I'm even mentioning that I made a video about that a year ago. Things have changed a little bit. But if I really go back to my original point, that movement was a time when there was momentum, there was a lot of energy and excitement. And so the best possible thing that you could do with that kind of energy is create something. Create an organization, create a company, create, I don't know, a YouTube channel, create something that has staying power. If you make something out of it, then it doesn't matter what happens to the movement, because it's already given birth to so many good things. At the time, I was perhaps a little naive. I thought that there would be one big Image Comics together and you'd be getting the same kind of thing. That's not the way that things panned out. The way that I have seen it happen, and the way that I know it's going to continue happening, is there are going to be several different imprints or publishing companies, people going different directions and making comic books. I think this is actually a great thing. You kind of avoid some problems because of it, but there are always going to continue to be conflict and competition and all this sorts of stuff. And so I guess my point is, I don't actually think that this is as negative a time. And I'm genuinely think this. I'm not trying to be optimistic here. I've just seen it so many times over the past year. I expect there to be conflict, and I expect there to be more conflict in the future. But what I also expect is for the cream to rise to the surface, for good comics to get out there, and for, you know, if you're interested in watching all this stuff live 24/7, if you're interested in following it because it's kind of fun and it is a little bit of an escapism for you, then keep enjoying it. I mean, that's great. If you're in it for the comic books, I assure you, and I know probably a bit more than most people do that's in public knowledge, just because I talk with a lot of other people out there in comics, and I can assure you that there's a lot of really good things coming down the pipeline from all sorts of different places, even some that you might not even expect. So hang on. I don't know. I think there's a lot to be happy about, is essentially what I'm saying. So thanks for watching. I hope this all made sense. If you want to disavow me, go ahead and do it in the comments below at the least. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and let me know what you think the future of indie comics holds. I know that there's a lot of different perspectives on this, and if you want to give your perspective in the comment section, is a great place to do it. So yeah, also don't forget, one of those awesome things that's coming out is Thrilling Comics, so do check that out. That's join my mailing list, and I'll make sure to keep you in the loop. Thanks, bye.